how long did you work at UVM? Like, when did you start there?
I worked 50 years at UVM.
Wow.
I retired in 94.
Okay. And
July, 1st.
And what did you do there?
Well, I started out as a secretary, but I ended up an administrative assistant.
Okay.
In the department. And
which department was that?
Well, the name was changed so many times it isn't funny. It started when I started working. It was agricultural economics, and then they changed it to resource economics. And the agricultural people, farmers and whatnot, didn't like that, so it went back to agriculture and resource economics. And now it's even different.
Yeah.
So, but I worked in the same department all the time. The dean's office wanted me to go there, but I didn't change. I decided I liked working with the students. I'd come in, I enjoyed that, so I didn't want to change.
So how did you get involved with this whole credit union project?
Well, that was a strange thing. I heard them talking about starting a credit union, and I didn't know what they're talking about. So anyway, it was ready. Then there was a date set for it, and I didn't plan on going. And the morning of the meeting, in the morning, some of them that were really wanting it came and went to talk to the boss, my boss, and I guess they decided they should ask him if it was all right with him, and because there would be some time during the day it would be involved. So he said, "Oh yes, go ahead. She gets her work done. She'll get it done one way or another." So they came in my office and they said, "Were you going to the meeting tonight?" And I said, "No, I hadn't planned on it." "Well, we want you as treasurer." And I said, "Well, what is the credit union anyway?"
So that was the first thing you'd ever heard of it?
I didn't know anything about credit union. All I knew was banks. You had banks. So anyway, I went to the meeting, and I thought, oh, do I want to do this? So, but it was very nice. The city credit union, the high college, no, the grade, the high school, grade schools there.
So like all the city schools?
There, and the city credit union said they would help us to get organized. So they were there helping, and they said, and after they explained the whole thing, and the president of the league, the Vermont Credit Union League, was there, because you run under that, and so he said, we'll assign one of these other people that are involved with credit union with whatever you have to do. And so anyway, I didn't know a lot of the people were there, because there was some from St. Michael's there, and we didn't have anybody. Trinity wasn't too involved in it. They got so they were going to, the beginning towards the end when I left. But Champlain had quite a few there.
Because I remember seeing one of the things that was sent out in the early 70s, one of the officers or treasurer or something was a sister at Trinity.
At Trinity, yeah, of course that was, but it was quite active then. It was quite a big college then. And St. Michael's and UVM and Champlain were very active. And so they elected their officers there, and then they the credit committee. There was about 3 on the credit committee. They had to appoint them, and you had an education committee, and you had an auditing committee.
Okay.
Every 3 months. See, we were state control too. We had, and every year we'd have somebody from the tax department come and audit our books. But some of them, like IBM, is federally controlled.
Right.
They have a different kind of credit union. they run with that. And so so I thought, oh, and so then finally Mr. LaValle from the city employees was their treasurer down there.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped me afterwards because people were signing up and you had to make these slips and whatnot. I thought, oh gee, this on top of all my work because I work overtime a lot of time anyway. I thought, ooh. And I did a lot of typing for students, their thesis and whatnot. So I was kind of snowed under.
Oh, wow.
But then he said, okay. He said, Saturday, he said, I'll meet you at your office. And he said, we'll set up their accounts, show you how to do all that and whatnot. So he said, and then he said, any questions you've got during the week or the month, just call me anytime, he said. And then at the end of the month, he said, I'll come up again you and show you how to close the books for that month. So, okay, and he was awfully nice. Worked with him all the time. It was very nice. I enjoyed that. But there weren't a lot of girls, women in there.
Mm-hmm.
We had some, but I guess they thought they'd let their husbands do that stuff, because a lot of places had credit unions, so they were already members. So
right.
Therefore, they didn't bother.
So were all the women who were involved, did they work at UVM, or were there any women whose husbands worked at UVM and they were also members, but they got involved with the credit union?
Either employed, if you were employed
mm-hmm.
and you had children that wanted to join, they could do that too. After the members came from UVM, but the family could be.
So, and did this? I remember I was looking through all the old directories and all of the. I noticed that pretty much most of the people who are in all the committees from the 1965 report that you guys put out were from the agricultural college, or
a lot of them were. They were because there was one guy in my department
mm-hmm.
was on the credit. He was head of the credit committee when they started. Although we had in the board, we had some from maintenance.
Okay.
Was in there too. There were men. There were men, a lot of men in that. Really more than the women.
So,
time, but
do you
but
know
a lot
why?
of them were the College of Agriculture. That was.
Do you know why it was that the College of Agriculture was so into the idea?
Some of them, like I know one of them that was very active in there. His wife worked for the school one, and she already was in the credit union for the school one.
Okay.
And I think that's what she was in the high school, taught in high school, and I think that's why he thought, well, gee, we should have one here.
Mm-hmm.
We had a hard time. Champlain College, right off, allowed, they would take the money out and send me one check with the names of people that wanted the money to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And then St. Michael's did, or you couldn't get UVM to do it.
Really?
We were quite a while. We kept asking the Board of Trustees. Finally, we wrote to, we thought, well, they won't give us any information and tell us how we can do it. They don't want us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was got a list of the Board of Directors at UVM and the president, and we just wrote him a letter. Wanted to know if we could be on their next meeting up here at UVM. So they said yes. So anyway, the president of it at that time, I don't know who it was, but he went to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, we can't understand why you can't have a credit union here. A lot of colleges have credit unions in other states. So I guess Burlington thought UVM was afraid if the banks would complain, I think.
Ah.
So they said no, that's fine. And we'll see that they allow payroll deduction.
So that was the Board of Trustees and the President? So you kind of just went over their heads?
We did. They made me do the letters. And I said, I'm not the secretary. Well, they said, you do the letters. So anyway, we did go over their head because we couldn't get them to agree to anything here.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So we said, well, we'll do it then. We tried to get onto their meetings all the time. Couldn't get anywhere. So we said, well, we'll get the list of the people, the trustees, and we'll send them a letter. And that's what we did. We got on to the next meeting. And they said, yes, you'll have payroll deduction. So that helped a lot, because when they borrowed money,
mm-hmm.
that helped, because, they would chip that money out. So if they had a loan, that came first, and anything left over went into their savings till they got the loan paid off.
Yeah. So what kind of, I know nowadays people take mortgages from credit unions, people take car loans from credit unions, but obviously in 1965 you guys had very limited resources. So what kinds of loans did people take out?
How many what?
What kinds of loans did people take out?
Well, they couldn't, at first we didn't have the money. We
Right.
had to build up some first. So we didn't, I don't remember how much we started with, but it was small amounts. See? And then we got more members, more money in. Well, we could make, I don't remember how high we got when I was there. But now they do car loans
Yeah.
and everything.
So this is the sort of thing where someone might
we never
need to
did
do a
that
car
much.
repair or have a medical bill, and they would
Yeah.
take a loan from the credit union?
Yeah, we didn't have enough money we didn't have enough money. It wasn't big enough when I was doing it. Uh-huh.
So you obviously put a lot of time into it.
And then after they merged,
mm-hmm.
after I finished being treasurer, I went on to the, let me see, I didn't go to education. It must have been the loans or something. I don't remember which one it was, if it was the credit committee or what it was, but I was there. I helped the lady that was doing the work. And then I'd go help her at the end of the month, and if not, so probably shouldn't have, probably interfered with my other duties there, but I did. And then when we merged, then they called me up and they said, well, we need you. And I said, what do you mean you need me? And he said, well, you've got to be in an office, one of the offices. So then I was on the credit committee,
mm-hmm.
and I'd go over their applications. And then when they were going, I said, you haven't been audited yet by the state. No, we haven't. I said, I'm going to go through all those folders. And I found so many of them were not signed by the right people. If you were a committee person, it had to be signed by if you were on one of those committees, it would be the board.
Mm-hmm.
The president of the board had to sign them. No, they weren't done that way. I found so many. Put a tag on them, made a list of them. I said, here, these are all wrong. So they started correcting their stuff.
So that was the credit union you guys merged with?
After merged, yeah. So but I finished that term, and I said, I can't do it because I don't have a car. And I said, it was way down at the Burlington High School. And
mm-hmm.
it was too hard for me to get down there.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm not going to extend my time, but the 3 years. I said, I'll do my 3 years, and that's it.
So was everything you did for that volunteer, were you ever paid by the credit union?
That's all volunteer. Even when I was treasurer, I didn't get paid. They didn't have money to pay you.
Yeah, because I remember in the little report it said, the president said something like, We have not felt it possible to pay our treasurer, the officer with the greatest amount of work and responsibility. I hope the new board will see fit to set a salary for this most important position.
Where did you get this?
This was in UVM Special Collections. This is I photocopied it. And it's the,
oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, I remember doing this. Oh, yes.
Sitting folder, and there's actually also...
Oh, dear, dear. And I kept every one of them, and I just threw them out last year.
Well, luckily
I typed all this stuff. He was president, but he couldn't continue.
Mm-hmm.
No, I never... every one of these things I had to do. Yeah, he was the president, but he quit. Well, he finished his term.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, Faith Pryor. And he was maintenance, and she was in home ec. Wilbur Newton, he was in maintenance. Oh, Tom Stanley, I forgot about that. He was there, that's right.
Was he from UVM or one of the other colleges?
Yeah. Oh, he was from St. Michael's. She was from UM. He was from my department. He was in, yeah. I don't remember him, but he was there. Edwards retired. He became the president of the directors.
Boyd W. Post.
Boyd Post, Gordon Sprigg, all these people are dead too, most of them. Yeah. That's right. I think I don't know about Boyd Post. I don't know where he is. I forgot where he went. He left Vermont, so.
Mm-hmm.
Went.
Was he a professor?
He was an egg, yeah. I think he was in forestry, but I'm not sure. Yeah, this was the first one we did. But you see, we did go up on the amount of money, but not as fast as we would have liked to.
Was the UVM not doing withholding? Was that kind of the big problem for you guys?
Took a time with UVM not being able to have. After we did that, it went well, pretty well, you know. But they did give me a watch after so many years. I got a watch from them. I still have it. And they gave me, the first year, I think, they gave me a briefcase.
Mm-hmm. To carry around all those folders?
To the meetings, you know, because the meetings wasn't very often in my building.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Take all that stuff I had to bring to the monthly meetings. We had to have a monthly meeting.
So one of the things you mentioned in here all those years ago was that you did a lot of cramming to get all the information and learn a lot about credit unions. What sorts of things did you read? Was it you were reading pamphlets or the law about how to run a credit union, or did you read any books by?
Well, we see this Vermont Credit Union League, which is now on Chittenden Road.
Right.
And they were down in the southern part of the state. And I'd pick up a phone often if I had questions, and he'd come up and check. They'd go around to all the credit unions and see if they had any problem. And he would attend meetings every month, one or the other, all through the state. And when he'd come up, he usually would come up early in the day and talk to me or before the meeting to see if there was anything he could help with.
Did you ever do any readings or read anything by Roy Bergengren or Bergengren or?
The what?
There's a guy who I've run across named Bergengren, I think. He wrote, I think, a little earlier about a lot about credit unions. and I didn't know if you had, by the 1960s,
Was
if you had
he
heard his
here?
name. I think his son actually became the head of the Association of Vermont Credit Unions for a while.
He was in Vermont?
He started the association back in the early 50s, I think. He died in the mid-50s.
Oh.
So that would have been before your time.
Yeah, before I knew anything about it.
He wrote a bunch of books, so I keep hearing his name around. So
because the one that I was the head of that credit league was, and he lived down the southern part of the state somewhere, and then he went to Europe somewhere, and I was going to see my brother in Germany, and he said, well, come up and see us, he said. And he and his wife and family were there, but we couldn't make it up there.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what country he was in, but it wasn't that far either, but we were so busy all the time I was there, so we didn't, but Hummels galore. And so I didn't have time to go up and meet him there, but anyway.
So I guess one other question I have is, what was it that motivated you to put so much time into this project? You volunteered obviously a lot of time.
Well, I did that with everything I did.
Yeah.
Work and everything. My work was like that. Everything had to be done and done right and perfect. So, and if I was going to do this, I said so. I did a lot of reading too, and about it, and made sure that got everything set up. So, and my loan thing, I made out cards for everybody had a loan, and I had months, January right through December, because some of them would pay on the loan different times. So if they didn't pay, then they went under the delinquent file, because I had to have a list at the meeting if people were delinquent.
And during your tenure there, were there a lot of delinquencies, or was it something you very rarely had to deal with?
No, we didn't have a whole lot of them, but you had a few of them. A couple of them were very sneaky. They borrowed money, and then they never paid it back. Get that? They left the university, and one of them was before payroll deduction. So, but the credit union felt bad because, she had good references and everything, so they took a chance and let her have the work. Well, she wanted to increase her loan wasn't quite, and she wanted to get more. And they let her because she'd been paying it. Well, Champlain College, it was payroll deduction there. So there didn't seem any reason why not. And then, but then she left Champlain College and went out of state. We never got the rest of it.
So there's one thing in here that really caught my eye, and I was wondering if this sounds like an example of that. In the credit committee report, it said, the job lies not in blocking loans which might prove to be bad risks. All credit unions find they are not truly serving their members if they do not have some bad loans. But to be sure as any subjective judgment can be, that the credit union resources are channeled to where they will do the most good. So it sounds like you sort of had this sense in the credit union that you were trying to do good as well as make a little bit of money. So what was the I was mentioned somewhere else as like the credit union story.
Which is this?
This is that same thing from the credit committee report.
Oh, yes. Okay, the ones on the credit committee.
And then also in the education committee, they talk about trying to get the credit union story out. So, what for you was the credit union story? What's your version of that?
Well, we didn't have a whole lot of bad loans, so I didn't have to. I worried about it when I took that job because I said, if they don't pay, we're in trouble because we're just trying to get started. But we didn't have too many of them, so we didn't. But every time made out that check for a loan. I just worry about it. Is it going to come in? But I didn't feel so bad with St. Michael's and Champlain because they had payroll deduction. But then if they leave their jobs, we had a couple of them that did that. And so at a meeting, I brought it up with one of them about it, and I said, we got to get after her. She joined ours, which she could, because she got part of her pay from UVM, but she was also getting paid by the state. And I said, I have already checked, and she belongs to the state credit union. Let's contact them now and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, and they said, we'll transfer it to here, and we'll take it out. So they did. They took it over.
So credit union. So it was the sort of thing where you could talk to another credit union and they would help you out, and you could help them out.
If you belonged to two, like she did, So okay.
That was very clever.
And she wasn't coming forth with her money to us, so they took over the whole thing, So that helped. And the other one, we lost it, of course. We lost the money.
Yeah. So, what was for you? What was the purpose of a credit union? Like why get together and spend all these volunteer hours to do this?
It's just helping one another, And instead of going to a bank, they could the credit union, and you also at that time. You had an insurance that came with it, too. They don't do that anymore. They don't have the money for that anymore. And so it really... And if you had a loan and you died, we had some people that did, and you had a loan, it was just crossed off when they died. Their wife didn't have to pay for it either. So
it was a little bit of extra security.
Helping one another, it's what it was. Bank is all business, But that was an idea, and that's why it had to be people that were connected together and their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how did you feel when the credit union merged? Did you feel like you were losing something, or did you feel like it was kind of growing to the next stage?
No,
what did you think?
It was getting a little too out of hand for us. That on a part-time, they had a whole staff. They have, like they have now,
mm-hmm.
and Burlington College, Burlington schools had their own credit union office, and they had people hired and everything. So we really didn't, because it was difficult. This was all volunteering and more time, and so I worked nights and weekends, everything.
So you felt like it was...
But I liked it, but it was getting too much.
Yeah. So you felt like it was a good thing that the merger happened?
Oh, yeah. I thought the merger would, And I thought, well, those people were been in it for a long time. They could do it much easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the credit union that you guys merged with was the same credit union. Was it the same one that the man came and helped you guys start it up?
No.
Or that was a different one?
Some of them were. Some of them from that did help some of the people, some of these committees to get
mm-hmm.
started. We each had a group. But this man helped me. That was Burlington City employees. They have one, see. All the employees that work for the city.
Do you know what they ended up becoming? Like, I think that I've looked around and they don't exist anymore, but a lot of these credit unions merged.
They don't exist anymore.
So I don't know if they've changed their name or if they merged into a bigger credit union like yours did or something like that. I don't know
anything about them anymore.
Because it's sort of funny, because I was looking at this chart, and there's this peak right around the late 60s when you guys were doing this. Is this the only
one they have at the library?
This is the only one they have at the library, but I talked to the woman at the credit union, Members Advantage Credit Union, and she said they have all of them there. So I'm going to actually go over tomorrow and photocopy a bunch. And
she says she has a lot of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if she has her old one before we merged. I don't know.
She said she did, so I've got my fingers crossed.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what year we merged either, come to think of it.
I think on their website it said you guys merged something like 1973, 1974, I think.
Well, that sounds kind of like it, yeah.
Okay. Let's see if there's any other super important questions. Were there any other things that you think would be important for someone to understand about kind of what you guys were doing back then? You know, you said it was helping each other out. Did you see this as kind of part of a larger movement, or were you guys really focused on just what you were doing?
Can't think of anything special now. Also, they come in, you know, and they need money, and they had, some of them, though, really had problems, and I'd try to help them other ways. Now, there was one man, he really was down and out, and so I said to him, I found some association thing in town that could help them. So I even set up the appointment for him. I said, if you want me, I'll call him and try and set you up an appointment for you and your wife. Yeah, they were having all kinds of problems, so I did that a few times.
So
people.
It was almost like you were a social worker in addition to a banker.
My duty, but I would. Yeah, if there's anything I could advise them with, you know, I'd do that.
And did you, once you kind of backed off from your involvement with this, and you finished with your...
Just coming from a big family, they worked hard. Probably.
Yeah. Did you keep up with credit unions at all after that, or did you just kind of keep your money in it? And...
No, as I said, I worked on a credit afterwards. I did go into that when it was merged. I worked there, and I went to meetings, though, the annual meetings, you know, quite a bit, and then I didn't go, because they'd have it out of one of the restaurants, and I couldn't get there very easy, and I just didn't do it. So, wasn't very, and then after I retired, I wasn't active at all. Because I had cancer 2 years before I retired. So I said, I'm retiring.
Yeah.
My doctor looked at me and he said, no, you don't. He said, you're a worker and you need to work. And you've worked long enough for the UVM, they can give you time off, he said, to go to the doctors or go there for your radiation treatments and whatnot, he said. So my boss said, no way, are you going to retire?
So what year did you start working at UVM?
Pardon?
What year did you start working at UVM?
Did I what?
Did you begin working at UVM?
1944. No, was it 44? Yeah, July 1, 1944.
So you'd been at
And I quit June 31st, 1994.
Wow. So you'd been part of that community for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
So when they came to ask you to do this, you'd already been there for
a long time.
More than 20 years.
Yeah.
So did they come to you because they saw you as someone who could?
And they said, you know, the ones that came in my office, they said, well, we thought of you right from the beginning. Because, well, I'd done a lot at UVM. One time there was a big conference, and my boss was the chairman of it. He said, well, I don't know. I have to wait to see if my secretary wants to do it. Well, I worked night and day and weekends on that thing. And then we belonged to the northeastern part of the state. Every state had a department like that. And every year they'd meet together at one place. So when they come to Vermont, I was busy. But they say every time it's time for Vermont. We love it up here. And one time we took them up to Johnson State College because UVM didn't. They were full with different conferences, so we brought them up there. And I stayed overnight, 2 nights I had to with the group, and it's so beautiful up there at that campus. And early morning, I'd get up early to walk around, go out walking. And one of the guys from the department was there walking around with his dog. He'd taken his, I don't know how he got his dog up there, in there, but he did. And so he'd be walking, but it would be so, we had such 3 nice days up there. The weather was just perfect. I said, I hope it doesn't rain. It didn't.
Yeah, no, getting up into the Northeast Kingdom is so gorgeous.
And then that time it was the whole university. I thought, oh my gosh. And then I heard about a grant in Washington and get a lot of money from it. So there was quite a few departments from every college. They had somebody wanted to work on that. So they did. So then he said, well, we need somebody to coordinate this. So one of them says, well, I know who can do that. So they came to me. I had typists going on in every college, and I wanted it so that they all followed a plan, and it would look the same when you put it together. It looked like a book. Boy, did I work hard on that, get that organized, and then I went through it all. We came in second. I couldn't believe it. But I didn't think we'd get that far. Oh, dear.
So you were seen as sort of the person who held everything together and got things done?
Yeah. It was a lot of work. And then I was kind of mad at the president's office. I said, now it's almost together. I said, we got it all out on the table, and the fellow that was head of the whole thing, who came from another department, he was there. We were spreading it out and getting ready. I called and I said, we need a letter from the president. She says, come on over, we'll give it to you, and you type it. I thought, well, can't you type it to myself? But I didn't say that to her. I'd go over, get the thing, bring it back, type it, go get his signature, make the copies, because we had to make so many copies to send to him. The guy said, that is ridiculous. I said, I know, but you needed the letter.
Well, that brings up something interesting, because you mentioned that you typed up this whole report, and I noticed that on the all the committees that had women on them, the women were secretaries. The committees that didn't have women, didn't have secretaries. So back in 1965, was it expected that?
Oh, they give me a copy of it, and then I put it in its form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But was it sort of expected that, if there's one woman on a committee of something, that she would do the secretarial work, or?
No.
Okay.
What they do is they get me a typed copy.
Right.
It,
okay.
And then I'd go over it, and then I'd have them come, I'd do it over the phone or something, and say, I don't think this sounds right. So we talk it over, and I make the change.
Yeah.
And then I typed it in this form.
So would each of these committee reports, were they written by the whole committee, or would it be the chair, the chair of the committee?
No, I think they worked together.
Okay.
When they wrote their I'm quite sure they worked together when they had to do this. Yeah, that was George Freshman. He was still president. He did finally do that to me for me. I said, George, I have to have something that has to be by the president. I said, so okay.
So you quickly just tap something out?
He was a teacher at St. Michael's. math teachers.
Oh,
He was
okay.
a great math teacher. I'm sure it was math. And when he, but when he was in college, he was at UVM, and he worked as a work-study student in our department. He was married and had kids. He'd been to war and everything. Of course, he came back after the war. A lot of them were already married. And so he had quite a few
When you say
kids.
went to war, was it World War II or Vietnam, or
Huh?
which war did he fight in? Like, did he fight in the Second World War, or
War II.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was this whole thing, was this a project that was hatched at UVM, and then people went out to the other colleges to say, hey, you guys want to join a credit union, or where did the whole thing started in the agriculture department, or?
I don't know. I think there were some others involved in it, but they talked around.
Okay.
First of all, I think probably the ones that really, were thinking about it were probably from the ag college, but they started talking to some others to make it interesting enough so that we could go ahead. And it contacted these other colleges too.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, and got them interested in it.
Did the just out of curiosity, because this might be something for me to go digging for in the basement of Bailey Howe, but did the agricultural college have a newsletter or something that was how at the time that was sent out to all the professors, or sort of anything that might have any way I might be able to figure out sort of who was scheming in 1964?
I really don't know.
Okay.
Or if I did, I don't remember it. We, and I was trying to think the other day, where did we meet monthly? Where did we meet, That would be just, and the chairman, it would be just the chairman of each committee had to be at the meeting, board of directors, and then one from each committee, the president of each committee, or the head one, yeah. Each committee had one person that was in charge of reporting to.
Was that like a monthly meeting, or?
Yeah, we had monthly meetings. And then every few months, there'd be a meeting of all the credit unions in the state, in the county around here.
Okay.
We'd get together, and that was nice.
Sort of share skills and things like that?
Yeah. And it was funny, because the first time we went to it, you had different, then you would, it would take turns who would sponsor it.
Ah, okay.
So you had to have a lunch and whatnot for it and whatnot. And, but the Burlington school system, they had money to work with. And we had a big one time there, and they gave prizes away, nice prizes. And they said, well, you're the youngest credit union. So they said, Yvonne, you draw the numbers. We all had a number to put in their plate. It was funny because I would pick out most of them from our credit union. And then the last one said, okay, one more. So I pulled it out. It was my name. And I got a can opener, electric can opener. I said, oh no. Because she was laughing, and I thought, don't tell me I pulled my name. They shook it up every time, too. Oh, it was so funny. But it was fun.